Slow progressions for better results. So in this training, we're going to talk about specifically like your weight selections, choosing how much to increase by, the different rules for different exercises, and just getting you thinking slightly outside the box. Because sometimes when you get your weight selections wrong, sometimes you think you're struggling, or you think you're weaker, or you think you're not making progress, when actually it was just your weight selections that weren't right. So let's talk through a working example here of a dumbbell shoulder press. Walk into the gym, week 1, 20, 3 sets of 10. Bosh. Done it, felt strong. Week 2, straight in there, gone to 24, 24 and 28. Then week 3, 28, 28, reps have dropped a little bit to 9 and dropped off a bit, about 6 there. Week 4, the same, just sort of managed to match your reps from the week before. Week 5, the same, so for 3 weeks on the trot. And then in the last week, you managed to just get one more rep. So with this progression here, what you might be finding is on weeks 4, 5, 6, feeling like your shoulder press isn't really making progress. Okay, you've got one extra rep, but really for like 3 weeks it was the same. So maybe the story in your head, you start telling yourself you've got weak shoulders, and it's a slow muscle group, and you know you're just not genetically blessed on that. These sort of things start going around your head. Example 2, slower progressions. Week 1 exactly the same, 20, 20, 20. Week 2 we go in 22. Okay, so you don't go from 20 to 24. You spend a whole week training on that 22, even though you got a little bit more in your tank. Then the week after, 24, you can see the trend here. Then we go up to 26s. On week 5, yes, we touch the 28s, and we managed to get a full set of 10 out on all 3 sets. And then week 6, we stick to the same weight, but we managed to get a few extra reps. The big difference here is slow and steady equals continuous growth. And when you go too aggressive with your progressions, you feel like you're stalling. So my best advice to you is, remember, all my training blocks that I do, they're always 6 weeks. So whenever you get a program, always think about the 6-week progression. Okay, so where is this lift going in 6 weeks? It's very, very easy to get caught up in the moment of week 1 or week 2 and just doing the most weights you possibly can in that session, because the pre-workout kicks in, or the bit of adrenaline. It's happened to us all. But then actually, yeah, you might feel good for that workout, but then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot a little bit for the future weeks because you haven't left any room for progression. So something to be mindful of. The other thing I want you to think about, which some of you may do, but I know a lot of you won't, is think of the percentage increases. So if we look at that shoulder press again, on the first example, we did 20, 20, 20 week 1. On week 2, we did 24. And on the third set, we went up to 28. Now, 20 to 28 is a 40% increase. That's huge. And you want to be thinking about small 5, 10 progressions. So rather than thinking about the actual dumbbell, think about the total weight and what percentage increases that is. So for example, on the second example, you went from 20 to 22. That's a 10% increase. So it's just slow and steady. And when you work through the progression, so you do a week on the 22s, you do a week on the 24s, you do a week on the 26s, you're building the strength, you're building the motor control, you're building the motor pattern, the strength in your joints, tendons, ligaments. So then maybe on week 4 or week 5, when you get onto that weight, the 40% increase, you can deal with it. But when you go onto it too quickly, you feel weaker. Another example is leg press. Everyone lifts more on a leg press, big exercise, 200 kilograms on there. Now, if you increase 20 kilograms, you put 10 on each side. In relation to the weight, that's a very moderate increase. Okay, so going up 20 to 28, that's 40%. But when the load is heavier, actually putting 2 10s on, that's a good increase. That's a sustainable increase. The best example, and everyone always forgets about this one, is your lateral raise. So many people will be on 5, and then suddenly they'll go up to 7.5. They go, oh, I'm really struggling with my lateral raises. I'm struggling to get the reps out. That's a 50% increase on what is a tiny muscle. Very small, isolated muscle. So hopefully that's it for this training. But hopefully biggest takeaways are slow and steady. Think about things in 6-week blocks, not as much as you can do in that single session. And then last thing, think of the percentage increase that you're putting onto the lift.